Good evening. Sorry, trying not to cough in your ear. Hope everybody's doing well. Hopefully you've had a decent weekend. News hasn't, hasn't let up. It's gotten just as crazy as ever. Kind of nuts as we watch all this stuff unfold. I'm still having a hard time wrapping my mind around the events in Uvalde, Texas. You know, I don't know if this is the latest part of the story or not, but supposedly the reason why it took them so long is because they had to wait for somebody with a key to unlock the door. I see a number of issues with this. First off, there needs to be somebody on campus at all times with a master key. If there's students or staff present, there needs to be somebody there at all times with a master key. That is just a very base level security. Part of security is being able to gain access to places. If the place you're trying to secure you don't have full access to, well, it's not that secure. All somebody has to do is exploit one of those places, and you won't even be able to look there for them. And that's just on a security basis, but just on a common sense level. Somebody at that campus, as long as there's anybody there, should have access, should have available to them access. Even if they had to go to a safe and get out a master key set, right? That's 2 minutes versus nearly an hour. I'm not saying I necessarily believe that story wholeheartedly. It may be true, it may not. I can't tell you I wasn't there. Well, I believe they said that, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it ballistic glass in that classroom? I believe I heard that was the excuse for that. I don't know. None of it makes sense. I can't. That's why I was saying, in the beginning, I still can't wrap my head around it because none of it makes sense. There's no locksmiths in town. I mean, nobody at all that might know how to rake that lock and then, Lord forbid, we just destroy the door to get access to the shooter and hopefully administer first aid and save lives. I'm at a complete loss. And I no matter how hard I try, I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know how the parents restrain themselves as much as what they did. I'm not saying that they necessarily completely restrained themselves. Some parents went in and got their children. I read today where apparently multiple, Border Patrol agents went and got their children, if I'm recalling that article correctly. And I'm just at a complete loss. You mean that SWAT team they got that's posing for all those tough guy pictures? They ain't got one of those there battering rams? I just find it amazing. Because if dude would have shoplifted from the local supermarket, they'd have drove that armored vehicle through the school to get to him. Because of the threat he poses to society. But when you got a heavily armed man barricaded in a classroom with a bunch of students and teachers, we better hold off and wait for a key. I am just not buying this story. I am not. You mean to tell me there were that many men and women in uniform with tactical gear on standing around waiting for an order? You mean they couldn't just act on their own? And I have a feeling that in the end, that's what happened in this, is that it was individuals that essentially acted on their own to put an end to this. I'll betcha if we dig the truth, that's what we'll find. Why did it take that long? And the question that I'm going to ask, and I don't want any answers and I'm not going to give any answers, I just want you to think about this. If and when, for God's sake, an event like this were ever to happen again, the question is, do we need to rethink our approach? And I am just going to lay it on the table right there and walk away. I don't want any answers. I'm not going to give you any answers. But when elementary school children are bleeding out for nearly an hour in a classroom because nobody will breach the door, it's time we might want to rethink our approach. Whatever that may mean, wherever that may lead. I've tried real hard to wrap my mind around this. I've tried real hard to try to think of some kind of angle to where it made sense. And it doesn't. It just doesn't. I think, unfortunately, I think we're just at the beginning of this. I think that the nation's been shaken enough from everything related to COVID, of course, everything related to economic issues. We got all kinds of social issues going on. We're in for a heck of a ride, but I've been saying that for quite some time now. I do have some stories brought up, I wanted to go over. Not a ton, but it is Sunday, and we've got quite a few headlines. We got headlines from Friday to cover, so I did find some rather interesting articles. And before we get started on Finland's F-35's and the Department of Justice and their investigation into the response in Texas, I want to talk about another incident, and many of you have, I'm sure, heard of it by now, but a couple of days ago, probably not so much. Maybe some of you still haven't heard. But there was an incident in West Virginia. As the headline says, female bystander kills gunman armed with an assault rifle. And it says, an identified West Virginia woman is being hailed as a hero after she drew a pistol and fatally shot a man who was firing into a crowd of people celebrating a graduation and birthday outside a Charleston apartment complex. The incident occurred on Wednesday night after 37-year-old Dennis Butler was confronted by partygoers for speeding through the complex while children were playing in the area. Police said Butler was agitated when he left the scene and came back a short time later with an AR-15 style rifle, which he began firing towards dozens of people at the party. The woman who was attending the party shot and killed Butler. This lady was carrying a lawful firearm, a law-abiding citizen who stopped the threat of probably 20 to 30 people being killed, Charleston Police Department Chief of Detectives Tony Hazlitt told reporters on Thursday. She engaged the threat and stopped it. She didn't run from the threat. She engaged it, preventing a mass casualty here in Charleston. See, that's kind of, there's a trick there. Are you listening, Uvalde PD? The key word is engaged. They actually engaged the threat, not sat outside hoping it would go away. It says Butler was the only casualty. No one at the party was injured. No charges will be filed against the woman. She and several witnesses waited for police to arrive and cooperated with investigators. So, and I will read this. It says, she's just a member of the community who was carrying her weapon lawfully, and instead of running from the threat, she engaged with the threat and saved several lives last night, Hazlitt said. He added, she did the right thing. I don't, if any other person, I don't know, it just says I don't if any other person would have done that. I guess he means I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure you probably heard about this by now. And hell, I don't remember what night this was. So I don't remember if I covered it Thursday night or if it even happened yet, or I'm not sure. Anywho, that just came out on RT today, so here's me taking a drink of coffee. Hang on. That's just an awesome looking plane, isn't it? Too bad it's a piece of crap. I mean, it's cool and stuff, but cool and stuff doesn't win wars. You need things like, useful and practical. That thing, not so much. It is fun to fly in a flight simulator, though. Anyway, I had to wet my throat. I was getting dry. Alright. As you see the headlines say, Finland to deploy F-35's near Santa Claus Village. Yep. That's right. Because I told his ass if I didn't get anything this year... No, I'm kidding. The article goes on to say... Finland will deploy its... speaking of that, I was going to tell you guys, Tuesday, I've got some pretty exciting news I will share with you all. And I'm not going to say anything more about it yet, but Tuesday probably I will share more with you all. And it's, it's pretty awesome for sure. It's pretty awesome for us. It really puts us ahead for our preps. So, and I'll go in more to it probably Tuesday. So, anyway, I wanted to say that this article says Finland will deploy its first batch of new U.S.-made F-35 fighter jets to the country's northernmost region, Lapland, when Helsinki receives the aircraft in 4 years' time, the country's Air Force has revealed. Now, mind you, they say in 4 years' time. However, there's a particular situation going on over there, and I'm sure this is probably going to be put on the fast track. So, I would imagine probably within 4 weeks, maybe 4 months, tops. On Friday, Brigadier General Huapekka Kernanen, something like that, the Nordic country's Air Force commander, said the F-35 fleet will be commissioned first to the Lapland Air Force in Rovaniemi in 2026. The airbase in question is situated 7 kilometers north of the city of Rovaniemi, I don't know how to say that, on the Arctic Circle, which is famous for its Santa Claus village. It's Finland's northernmost base hosting fighter jets. In December 2021, Helsinki announced its decision to purchase a fleet of 64 F-35 multi-role combat aircraft to replace its aging F-18 Hornets. I'll take them. The first F-35s are expected to arrive in Rovaniemi in 2026, and I know I'm saying it wrong, with the rest of the fleet becoming operational by 2030. Again, you can bet that they are going to have quite a few of them there quickly. You watch. I'm pretty sure that the United States is sitting on a whole lot of these F-35s. I just got a sneaky suspicion. I don't think I'll put it this way. I don't think the vast majority of them are manned. I'll put it that way. Should Finland's application to join NATO, which Helsinki lodged on May 17th, be approved, the number of military blocks F-35s in Northern Europe will increase considerably, as NATO member state Norway has already received 34 of the 52 new aircraft. Hell's Angels out there. While most of Norway's F-35 fleet is stationed at Orlandet Air Base in the south of the country, several aircraft are based north of the Arctic Circle at Evens Air Base as part of NATO's Quick Reaction Alert Forces. I know, I'm butchering all these names. It is what it is. On Thursday, 2 F-35s flew from that base to intercept 2 Russian planes over the Barents Sea, which had not violated Norwegian airspace. If the Finnish F-35 stations at Rovaniemi base also becomes part of the U.S.-led bloc's QRA forces, it would take them even less time to intercept hypothetical Russian military planes flying west of the Kola Peninsula. This scenario is, however, not a given, and the Finnish F-35s could be tasked with guarding the country's 1,340-kilometer-long land border with Russia, while their Norwegian colleagues keep serving as part of NATO's QRA forces in the north. On Friday, Finland's defense minister, I can't figure that one out, Kekkonen, revealed that Helsinki would invite partner countries to conduct more military drills. The exercise, which is expected to start this summer already, is meant to bring its military more in line with NATO standards, as well as to show concrete support to Finland while the country completes the application process for membership of the bloc. And you can pretty well bet that these countries are going to get in. I mean, you can pretty well bet it. and they're gonna move those planes and much other equipment in quick. This I'm gonna be real honest. This headline doesn't do a whole lot for me. I've never been a big fan of the whole we're gonna investigate ourselves kind of mentality. So probably the biggest reason. And when you already know you've got corruption on both sides of the government, why would you trust their own investigation? I don't know. As the headline says, DOJ opens probe into school shooting response. I probably need to look up once in a while. You should get your F-35. That's what caught my attention. You should get your F-35 within 60 days. Well, let me know how that turns out. Because I've got a couple on the back order. Anyway. This goes on to say the U.S. Department of Justice has announced it will investigate law enforcement's response to the shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde after witness reports painted a troubling picture of police response to the incident, which left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. A DOJ spokesman announced the probe on Sunday. Requested by the Uvalde Mayor Don McLaughlin, the review aims to provide an independent account of law enforcement actions and responses that day and to identify lessons learned and best practices to help first responders prepare for and respond to active shooter events, according to a statement from DOJ spokesman Anthony Coley. The agency will publish its conclusions after a review is complete. And then it goes in talking a little bit. It says some parents horrified by the officers' inaction while precious minutes were lost were actually handcuffed when they tried to rush into the school to save their children themselves. At least one Border Patrol officer repeatedly ran inside to rescue his own child before the shooter was killed, raising questions about why others were not rescued at the same time. At the same time, some 19 officers were actually inside the building, standing outside the 4th grade classroom where the person reportedly barricaded himself. Rather than break down the door themselves, they waited for more than an hour after gunfire began for the school janitor to arrive with a key. At least one child inside the classroom where students were being killed called 911 and begged for police assistance. I mean, what am I supposed to think with stuff like that? And again, I'll repeat, I have a suspicion that the officers that did go in, I have a feeling there's more to that than what we've been told. I don't know. Any way you look at this, there was such gross neglect. I don't know what else to call it. Absolute gross neglect. You're right, Hexafus. And I'm aware of that too. I'm aware of them trying to get rid of all the police forces other than a federal police force, and I know that they're trying to do that. But at the same time, if these individuals aren't going to act like human beings, well, what do we do? What are we supposed to do? I'm not for just taking abuse for whatever. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The only thing I can say, nobody else can stop following the orders but them. I don't know what else to say. Nobody else can just stop following orders but them. We can't do that for them. And until they start doing that, what are we supposed to do? I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure more details will come out on that in the future, and I'm sure many people, including myself, will have plenty more to say in the future as more information comes out. But it just, there's a whole lot with it that just doesn't seem kosher. Let's see. Global food crisis may spread from grain to sugar. I have a feeling it's going to get stupid. Plain stupid. It says sugar prices are expected to soar due to export restrictions imposed by a number of key producing nations seeking to tame rising domestic food prices. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, which seriously undermined global supply chains. And man, you know, it's starting to get a little bit old hearing about COVID and how bad it took out the supply chain because, how long have people been trying to get back to work? So I can't just buy their story anymore. Anyway, and of course, aggravated by the crisis in Ukraine and the sanctions on Russia, the conflict between the two major grain exporters has disrupted global supplies. The number of countries have moved to limit exports of other key commodities, putting global food security under threat while risking further increases in prices of agricultural products. On Monday, Kazakhstan began a 6-month ban on white and cane sugar exports. India is reportedly considering placing restrictions on sugar exports for the first time in 6 years to prevent a surge in domestic prices. India's ban is expected to target around 10 million tons of this season's exports. Last week, Reuters reported that sugarcane mills in Brazil, the world's biggest producer and exporter of sugar, were canceling sugar export contracts and shifting production to ethanol in an attempt to take advantage of the high energy prices. The estimated cancellations could equate up to 400 tons of raw sugar. Earlier this month, Pakistan imposed a complete ban on sugar exports, citing deep concerns about inflation. In March, Russia banned sugar exports until the end of August. For sugar, it's relatively easy for Brazilian mills to switch production to ethanol production if the economics make sense, and this can push global sugar markets higher. Darren Fredericks, founder and market research director at Setonia Consulting, a Shanghai-based commodities analyst firm, told the South China Morning Post. In particular, as both food and energy prices are rising, there is increased focus on the use of food for the production of fuel, he added. Earlier this week, the head of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, warned that the global economy is facing its biggest test since the Second World War. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said global hunger levels are at a new high, with the number of people facing severe insecurity doubling in just 2 years, from 135 million before the pandemic to 276 million today. So, and it goes on, a couple more paragraphs, but definitely not good news. And if the price of sugar goes up, guess what? A lot of food's going, pretty much most food's going to go up. It's crazy. It is nuts. And I really don't think that that things are gonna, as far as prices, I don't think they're gonna get real let's see. Sorry, I was checking our gas. I've been keeping an eye on our gas prices. I just Google it, and gives me essentially the same three stations every time. So I was just checking again. We're up a little bit. I mean, we're let's see. The Conoco right here in town is at $5 even right now. $5 even for regular. So one station you can get it for $4.77, another one $4.90. So crazy. And like I say, I think it's gonna go up. France is limiting water usage. It says here a severe drought has prompted 24 out of France's 96 departments to impose limits on water usage, the country's Ministry of Ecological Transition said on Monday. How do you like that? The country's Ministry of Ecological Transition. That's an interesting title for a position, isn't it? I think it is. The restrictions range from simple calls to save water in some areas to a more than a 50% reduction in agricultural withdrawals and bans on washing cars, watering gardens, and filling swimming pools in others, the ministry told Le Figaro, or whatever. So let me get this right. You can't water your garden anymore. And there's going to be a 50% reduction in the water that can be used for agricultural use. Sounds like a fun ecological transition. Interesting. It says rainfall levels have been well below normal in France since September 2021, and last month the deficit reached 25%. The situation was exacerbated by abnormally hot temperatures in May, which is on track to become the warmest on record. This makes me wonder if it's legal to have your own little rain catchment system there. I wonder if they ban that. As early as mid-April, 8 French departments were forced to impose curbs on water use, compared to just 3 in the same period of 2021. This year, the drought had started early. France's new Prime Minister, Elisabeth Borne, said earlier this week, "We are taking steps to manage the water resource and prevent the situation from being unmanageable this summer." Local authorities have been instructed to preserve the water resources as much as possible, Borne said, also calling on all French people to reduce their water consumption. The premier also announced that £400 million would be allocated to support farmers who may be lacking feed for livestock due to the drought. Nuts. You know? And then that's probably still not going to get them the feed that they need for their animals. That's probably just going to be subsidizing them for not, the money lost from not getting it. Let's see. Oh, that was sand. I don't know. I think it's gonna be this way throughout much of the Southwest for sure. Right here in the United States, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of this year. I hope that whoever's put to oversee it doesn't have the words ecological transition in their title. That's just interesting to me. So apparently, Iran is showing off an underground drone base. Says here, Iran state media has offered its viewers a rare glimpse of one of the country's underground military drone bases, with the footage depicting rows of combat UAVs parked inside the facility. The video broadcast on Saturday is said to have been shot in the Zagros mountain range, which stretches from Iran's Gulf Coast all the way to its border with Iraq and Turkey in the northwest. No further details regarding the base's location were disclosed, with the correspondent explaining that it had taken him 45 minutes to reach the base by helicopter from the city of Kermanshah, I think so, in western Iran. All through the trip, which reportedly took place on Thursday, the journalist was blindfolded and was only allowed to see his surroundings on arrival. I wonder if they kept smacking him in the head with a spatula or something. I don't know. Might disorient him. He won't be able to keep up with, okay, we made 3 rights and 2 lefts, and, I'm being a village idiot. The footage featured rows of combat drones carrying missiles parked in a tunnel several hundred meters long, according to the report. Some of the military UAVs were apparently armed with KAM-9 missiles, an Iranian copy of the U.S.-made air-to-surface Hellfire. One model, which was featured in the report, the Kaman-22, is said to be able to cover a distance of at least 2,000 kilometers or 1,245 miles. Video aired on state television also showed Iran's Armed Forces Chief of Staff General Mohammad Bagheri and Army Commander Abdurrahman Musavi, something like that, inspecting the underground base. In the piece, Musavi said that there was no doubt that the drones of the Islamic Republic of Iran's armed forces are the region's most powerful. He went on to add that Tehran's capability to upgrade drones is unstoppable. The military official also revealed that the secret facility was several hundred meters underground. According to the report, more than 100 combat, reconnaissance, and attack drones belonging to the army are kept for operations in this base. General Bagheri described the fleet of UAVs as strategic. Bagheri pointed out, however, that there was no time for complacency, saying that the Iranian armed forces never underestimate threats, we never assume the enemy is asleep, and we are constantly alert and vigilant. Iran first launched its military drone program back in the 1980s during the war with Iraq. The U.S., Israel, and Saudi Arabia accused Tehran of providing its regional allies with combat drones, with Lebanon's Hezbollah movement, the Syrian government, and Yemen's Houthi rebels named as the alleged recipients. Washington claims Iranian drones were behind the September 2019 strike on a Saudi oil refinery and the July 2021 attack on a commercial vessel off the coast of Oman that killed 2 crewmen. Iran strongly denies any involvement. In October 2021, the U.S. Department of Treasury imposed sanctions on Tehran's drone program. And if Iran would have done it, I'm pretty sure that they would have claimed it. So, kinda would only make sense to. Anyway, so what's the U.S. government doing? Oh, I don't know. Coming up with bond for Nancy Pelosi's husband, I guess. U.S. House Speaker's husband arrested for drunk driving. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Says the 82-year-old husband of U.S. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence in Northern California, according to the Napa County Sheriff's Office. According to the records, Paul Pelosi was arrested at 11:44 p.m. Saturday night and booked into jail at 4:13 a.m. on Sunday, but eventually released at 7:26 a.m. on a $5,000 bail. So, he was arrested at 11:44, but not booked until 4:13. I wonder how long it took the phone call to get back on what they should do. He reportedly faces charges of driving with a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or higher and driving under the influence of alcohol, but no further details were immediately revealed. Nancy Pelosi has yet to publicly acknowledge the arrest of her husband of nearly 60 years, while her spokesperson told AP the speaker will not be commenting on this private matter, which occurred while she was on the East Coast. Yeah, why should she, she shouldn't have anything to say. Should she? Let her, she needs another bottle of wine. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And these people wanted you fined for not wearing a mask. Right? They want you cast out like you're some horrid monster for not getting a vaccine. And they can sit here and pull this kind of stuff, hold it right up to our faces. I think it's only a matter of time before the American people truly have enough. But that remains to be seen. Have me some coffee real quick and we'll do some headlines and mosey on out of here. Fun times. Okay, starting with stuff I shared out on Friday. Police kill man carrying rifle near school, and I think this was up in, Toronto, Canada is where that was. Elon Musk pits billionaires against politicians. Well, I think he tweeted the question, who do you trust more, politicians or business, billionaires. That's what it was. Politicians or billionaires, who do you trust more? Western leaders, and I really, to be honest, I'm one of those people that I don't choose evil. So the lesser of two evils is still not a choice for me. So, Western leaders have many complexes, says Lavrov. Hungary targets petrol tourists. U.S. may send heavier artillery to Ukraine, says media. And now other countries are getting on board with that too. West declared total war on Russian world, says Moscow. Iran offers Russia barter trade plan, says media. Russians may be offered to pay their way out of sanctions, says the media. A NATO aspirant hosts U.S., French, and German warships. China confronts U.S. Secretary of State. And again, this was stuff I put up Friday. UK PM proposes that Ukraine join new alliance, says media. EU hopes to ditch Russian gas hit glitch, says media. Let's see. Russia responds to Zelensky's calls for talks. Asia outpaces Europe as top Russian oil buyer, says Bloomberg. A NATO chief names conditions for Finland and Sweden. EU urges citizens to inform on sanctions violators. EU members oppose fast-tracking Ukraine's accession, says media. Twitter investors sue Elon Musk. Let's see. Huge European gas depot risks staying empty, says media. Yeah, no, this is when I would have, so I didn't talk to you about that story, because this is when I would have found out, when I shared it out here. Kissinger added to Ukraine's list of enemies on his 99th birthday. Poland is running out of coal. Cancer patients seek damages from Fukushima operator. Ex-Luvor director faces criminal charges. Euro and dollar are toxic candy wrappers, says Russia. Moldovan leaders call for fair trial against predecessor. India decriminalizes sex work. So, if anybody's looking to get into that line of work, be careful of the monkeypox. Video alleging cops gassed man to death leads to unrest. And that is kind of crazy. I watched that video myself, and that is kind of crazy, man. I mean, really, seriously. I'm not gonna. I don't want to play the video here. But yeah, I guess they put a smoke bomb, a smoke canister, or whatever in a van, and they closed the back door of the hatch, the back hatch of the van down on the guy. And of course, the van filled up with that smoke, and essentially asphyxiated the guy, killed the guy. Kind of nuts. Russia ramps up crude sales to India. No need for mass vaccination against monkeypox, says the WHO. Well, I'm pretty sure we're already on to that. U.S. fuel prices reach new highs ahead of Memorial Day. Iran seizes Greek tankers after U.S. piracy. And again, this is Friday's stuff. Ukraine's biolabs riddled with corruption and neglect, says Russia. Boris Johnson wants heavier weapons for Ukraine, so there's another country that's saying we need to send heavier weapons. Biden appears to confuse North and South Korea. Biden confuses left and right shoe. What are you going to do? Ukraine risks merging with Poland, says ousted president. British mercenaries in Ukraine face death penalty. Actually, that's not true. Biden doesn't have left and right shoes because he wears the hospital slippers. There is no left and right. British mercenaries in Ukraine face death penalty. Well, I mean, they put shoes on them once in a while when they take them out for show and tell, but let's see. Ukrainian ex-president attempts to leave for Poland. World's richest man praises recession as a good thing. U.S. might sell boondoggle warships to allies. Ukraine-Russia conflict hits church. Police held back feds from charging school shooters, says media. Actually, I think I covered that one. Hacker demands $250,000 for Verizon info exposed online, says media. Trump weighs in on Texas school shooting. Belarus pushes to expand its military. And now we are to yesterday's news. Hang on. Oh, man. Quite a few headlines Friday. Alrighty. Putin orders copyright royalties in rubles. Chinese food security push poses threat to the U.S., says a report. Ukrainian refugees losing benefits in Europe. UK gasoline and diesel prices hit new highs. Again, this is yesterday's news. Ex-German intel chief warns of war with Russia. Russian oil giant wants to sue the U.S. Russia makes debt payments in foreign currency, says media. Anti-gun protest rock NRA convention. Russia warns U.S. of consequences for global security. Ukrainian negotiator says no deal with Russia. EU issues projection on Ukraine's grain exports. Millions could starve due to Ukrainian crisis, says the UN. Ukraine vows to reclaim Black Sea with foreign weapons. Kiev seizes assets of Russian oil major. Ex-president tries to leave Ukraine again. Putin speaks with EU leaders. A Russian gas embargo is poison for German society, says an official. Says an official. Russia claims seizure of major Ukrainian stronghold. Pentagon to replenish Stinger stock sent to Ukraine. A new potentially dangerous chemical found in the atmosphere. I found that kind of interesting, and I don't know, I'm not that smart, but they're calling these trioxides, and it's kind of interesting what they say. Again, I really don't know how true it is, and I don't know in reality how much it would affect us, but I am certain that there's a whole lot of things that we don't know about yet. And this is definitely interesting. Let's see. Video shows Ukrainians beating up taxi drivers in Austria, says media. Levees rebuilt 17 years after Hurricane Katrina wrecked New Orleans. Zelensky demands answers from the EU. Poland wants to more refugee money from the EU. Monkeypox cases just the tip of the iceberg, says WHO. Former Soviet state considers letting NATO blow up World War II memorial. Let's see. Government admits to accidentally starting massive wildfires. Imagine that. Imagine that. And there are other fires, too, that turns out that they wound up being the ones starting. Including one that wound up with a couple of ranchers put behind bars for a considerable amount of time. U.S. General insists he is apolitical. Seems like the name Hammonds comes to mind. A life without parole ruled too cruel for mass murderers. Now, mind you, taking away the defense tools, the ability for the average man or woman to be able to equalize their ability in defense against other human beings or animals, or even that bag of Doritos that's really hard to get open. I don't recommend using it for that. But they want that right taken away from you, right? Being able to protect yourself and your loved ones, be able to save their life. They want to take that right away from you. And then on the other side of the coin, they want to make it not only absolutely impossible for a murderer to be murdered, but they want to make it impossible for them to have to actually spend the rest of their life behind bars. How do you get that stupid? I mean, seriously, how do you get that stupid? I don't get it. China signs new deal with Pacific nation. Bill Gates names reason India deserves praise. Global food crisis may spread from grain. Oh, I covered that. Sorry. Covered that. EU explains why it keeps buying Russian oil. Because they have no choice. Key energy market headed for crunch this winter, says experts. Strong ruble. Oh, I'm actually on today's stuff. Sorry. Strong ruble may pose risk to Russian economy, says minister. British media whitewashing Ukrainian neo-Nazis, UK journalist tells RT. Swimming pools risk closure amid economic crisis, says media. Japanese manufacturing giant resumes deliveries to Ukraine. Ukraine calculates financial aid from the West. EU to stop short of full Russian oil embargo, says media. Putin to hold talks with Erdogan. The Great Resignation is here to stay, says a survey. Japan warns Ukrainian refugees against adult entertainment jobs. So India is making it legal for you to be a hooker, and Japan is warning you not to be a hooker. I don't know. You got to make that choice for yourself. If right now, though, let me just clarify this. If you want to be a hooker, you want to go to India. Okay? And if you don't want to be in a country, well, I can't say that doesn't have hookers, but, maybe less, you go to Japan. Just make sure you get your countries right. Don't want anybody winding up in the wrong place and having an absolutely miserable time. Russian gas embargo would dent Italy's GDP, says an analysis, or something. Under-equipped and outgunned, foreign fighters recall Ukraine tour. Norway renames Belarus. Another country sends howitzers to Ukraine, says a report. Let's see. Serbia secures new gas contract with Russia. I thought this was interesting. UK may bring back imperial measurements, says media. Thought that was interesting. Bill Gates warns about next pandemic. I'm sure. Israel threatens rival over attacks through proxies. EU unity on Russia sanctions crumbling, says Germany. Pentagon pressed to defend abortions. Because, that's their department now, I guess. U.S. House Speaker's husband. Oh, I covered that. Colombia heads for presidential election runoff. There we go. That's the headlines. Well, with that, I am going to get out of here and relax the rest of my Sunday evening, and I hope you do as well. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow night for what I imagine is probably going to be quite a bit of news coming out tomorrow. So anyway, God willing, will be there and hope to see you then. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.